Amir, you mentioned that systems and financials and streamlining your business is a critical step in developing a strong, sellable operation. 80 to 90% of business owners have never had a valuation. Most owners wait until they have to sell before they clean things up. And the problem is by then it's too late. So what are some of the things that you've done to streamline your business, to prepare your business, number one, for the ideal exit, but number two, also to prepare yourself in case something happens in your life that you're not prepared for?
Yeah. And I think the second question you asked me is actually how I started is, what if something happens to me? What are my redundancies? That's the curse of any business owner is we helicopter parent.
Helicopter parent?
Yeah,
Yeah,
helicopter parent our business.
totally.
God forbid anyone else takes control. I remember there's a saying, and I love this saying, and I think my coach said this: don't teach everything to your employees in case they quit. And then he said, well, what if you don't teach them everything and they stay? And I went, you know what? That was one of those things like, I'm going to keep some things in case they quit. But what if we limit them while they're staying there and they are with us? Like I said, some of my employees are 15 years with me. So I gave a lot more control to my staff. Right now, we have 4 caterings that we're working on in one of my stores. And I just got a text while we're pausing, and they said, one of the deliveries came too early. I already called DoorDash, and here's what I've done. So now I get instead of me calling and having to deal with it, and that's been a problem for me for a very long time, is give them control, and you'd be surprised of how good they can resolve things. Now, once they can't resolve it, then we have meetings and say, here's our bottlenecks. So now I work more with bottlenecks than being afraid of having them. I actually enjoy having bottlenecks. Bottlenecks allow me to see what I need to do next. So once that bottleneck opens up, guess what typically happens? You find another bottleneck. The more efficient you become, it doesn't stop you from having bottlenecks. You just catch them more quickly, and you know how to resolve them because you're accustomed to them. Because I was a business owner, I was afraid of bottlenecks, and if they were bottlenecks, it was up to me to fix it all. Having clean financials, right? Like, that was a bottleneck for me because unlike my business, I thought that was a responsibility of my CPA. He's supposed to deal with it. When he started asking me questions, I'm like, well, I don't know that. Well, I don't know that. Like, maybe I should know a little bit of these. Maybe I should know how to read a P&L. Maybe I should look into what it looks like when I'm having losses. Or what does it mean when there's profit? Is that a true profit? And then you have your cat, your mom, your dog on payroll. I'm like, oh, wait a minute. Maybe I need to consider, what does that look like when you actually say this is what you're really making? And is that actually what's in my bank? That's not necessarily the case. So again, going back to being responsible, me being the problem, then I can be the solution. The best thing that I did is pass over the responsibility for things that should be other people's responsibility and took responsibility for things that should be mine.
Yep.
I think that's been really, really valuable for me.
Yeah, those are really good. Are there any financial disciplines or financial rules of thumb that you think every owner should have in place?
Yeah. Don't wait till tax season to find out your numbers. I now have quarterly meetings and monthly meetings with my CPA because I'm also able to ask educated questions. When you don't know like the numbers the way you should, my CPA is great, but it's like going to the doctor, right? If you go to the doctor and you're very, very well versed, they respect you more. It doesn't mean you need to be Dr. Google. It just means if you say, hey, my knee has X, Y, and Z, I notice maybe meniscus or maybe something else, what do you think? Now you're having intelligent conversation. Be well versed enough to have an intelligent conversation. I know as business owners, we're running businesses. I know that and I understand that. But it doesn't mean you don't have to know a little bit of what's going on and having a pulse on your numbers. So I think that would be my main general gist is don't wait, once every half a year or during tax season to see what's going on, being like, wait, why do our numbers look so bad? It's like, well, you had an opportunity. You have 12 months to ask, 12 months. And the cost of spending time with the CPA and knowing your numbers is going to cost you a lot less than trying to go back retroactively and figure things out that were broken. So that's something that I've learned this year.
That is so important. That's so important to understand the numbers, understand where any issues lies in terms of your reporting, and having your thumb on that pulse. It's critical, and it's a responsibility that a lot of business owners kind of neglect.
Yeah, and your CPA isn't in your business, and he or she has hundreds of other businesses that they're working with. So if they see that you have a pulse, they're going to be like, okay, I need to pay attention to this person because he's going to see if I'm doing a half part on my end. So you want to make
Yeah,
sure
if you're on top of it,
you're on
yeah.
top of it. And that's why working with you and all of a sudden my bookkeeper and CPA is getting emails like, hey, what's this number? Why is this happening? Their ears perked up. Like, what's going on? And I'm like, hey, I'm working with someone that's working on what it looks like as a potential exit strategy. I need my numbers to look accurate and proper. And so funny enough, after that, it was like, well, let's start having more of these meetings. This is good
Hmm.
because it helps the CPA to have clean numbers too. It helps everybody when everyone is on the same page. So it's not
Yep.
just for your own business, but it makes your CPA's job easier. And so when you have quarterly meetings or monthly meetings, they can pull it up immediately and know what's wrong. And you can have, again, your bottlenecks fixed right there.
And there's financial bottlenecks too that occur oftentimes without the business owner even really realizing or noticing.
Right.
Because sometimes there's financial issues that pile on each other and become knotted and kind of continue to snowball through the years that the business owners aren't even realizing.
Absolutely.
So, being able to identify some of those complexities and untie some of those issues and making it a more streamlined process, understanding the numbers, it creates a more knowledgeable business owner and it creates a more valuable business. And that's what we're here to do. We're here to educate business owners in their own internal systems and to help them create a more valuable business. That is our bottom line.
Yeah, and you can't chat GPT your way out of like getting a valuation. I mean, here's the thing, like there is such a psychological, emotional component that
Totally.
like chat saying you're doing great is not going to do it. Like you have to have a real person on the other end. There is a lot of brainstorming that's involved when considering an exit strategy that, again, you don't even know what you don't know until you speak to someone like
Right.
Rick or Mark in a situation like that. Again, for those that are listening, I know you guys are business owners, get a valuation just for the sake of knowing what you don't know. That alone is worth the cost of admission, in my opinion.
And don't be embarrassed for not knowing. 90% of business owners don't know the value of their asset. And a lot of people kind of have this, this little feeling of insecurity or I should know this, but I don't, and I'm embarrassed by it, and I don't want to look that direction. It's okay. It's totally fine. Even if it's just a mess, we can help you.
Yeah, absolutely. Because look, at the end of the day, if you ever want to sell your business, if it's a mess, might as well know now. And every business, in my opinion, has its messes and has its things. It's just having a family. Next thing you know, the month passes by, 2 months passes by, a year passes by so quickly for all of us now. We're running
Yep.
businesses. It's like our day-to-day goes so quickly, just a business. There's always fires that we're trying to dampen. So to your point, it's good to start doing it. And the best time, as they say, is to plant a tree was 10 years ago, and the best time now is today. It's like, I should have done it 10 years ago, but I'm planting my tree now with my valuation. And again, it's funny because when you get married, we spend months picking out cakes and things like that. When we are, you know what I mean? When we buy a house, we spend months looking on Redfin and like with our realtors. And then when someone asks you, your business, how much is it worth? And
Right.
I'm like, I don't know. One of your biggest asset that allows you to pay your mortgage and your rent, that allows you to have a safe marriage, so you're making money. That asset is the one thing that you actually have no pulse on what
That's
it's
crazy.
worth. That's insanity. Like, you go buy a car and you're spending months on, do I get new tires with it? Like, it's crazy to think the one thing that we don't spend a lot of time with is the actual thing that makes our lives go round.
Yeah.
So
Definitely.
something to
Definitely.
consider.
Financials are important to understand. It's the bedrock, it's the foundation. Buyers also look at systems, right? And they look at how transferable these systems are, how efficient they are, how involved do I have to be. Talk to me a little bit about what your systems were, what the bottlenecks were early on, and then what you've done to improve after realizing the value of improving systems.
Oh, great question. 10 years ago, I was the system. Caterings came in, I picked up the phone, I placed the orders, I had to go to the store and tell them what to do. I had to tell them the address if there was something. I had to set up the delivery drivers. Everything was on me. It was literally a piece of paper that I would manually draw out. Now with technology, even our point of sale system was, like the one with the buttons and then a little receipt would come out and it didn't connect to anything. I had this like epiphany that if I had a month to live. How would I get myself out of it? And I realized it wouldn't survive. It wouldn't survive 2 days. I've automated my payroll systems. That's number one. Payroll systems. Everything was by hand. Again, I was doing
Huge.
everything by my hand. I was manually putting in the numbers. Now the numbers come in from my point of sale. It goes in and it goes straight to paychecks. Catering orders. While we have been on this call, I can look. I've had 4 caterings come in. They go directly to my store. If it's delivery, it gets dispatched automatically. The customer gets a receipt. My store gets a receipt. I get a receipt. I know at all times what's been coming in. I know if it's a pickup or a delivery. I know where it's going, how far. I can push a button. I can tell you who the driver is. These are systems that I didn't know that I could utilize, and they're out there. So for those that are here, like, find ways to get yourself out of the business. Now, actually, a funny thing is, because of this, I'm more involved. I can actually see the nuances that matter at my store. Customer service, because I'm not sitting behind a desk writing caterings. Like, I'm actually at my store talking to customers. What's going on? What do you think was happening? Has anything changed in my restaurants? What do you think of the prices? Go to my store. I can see if an employee is having a bad day. I can step outside because I know my business is going to run with or without me. And
Yep.
so when you asked me, like, how much time am I spending in my business? I'm like, honestly, not so much. There's this guilt that you feel as a business owner, but like, I think you reminded me that, Amir, you've built these systems. You should be proud. That's not a bad thing. I'm not out of my business because I don't want to be in it. It's because I've built systems so I can be of value in my business. And
Right.
so that's been a really, really big thing. I can go on vacation and I don't have to say all caterings need a halt while I'm gone for 4 days. They can still happen. I still get the same messages. I can do payroll while I'm in Hawaii if I need to. I can do all that stuff. Now I'm not bound structurally by an environment. I can do it anywhere because we're in a day and age that you have all these things in place and you can do a lot of this stuff online. And
Yep.
unfortunately, I go to a lot of these small mom and pop shops and they're still writing things by hand, and tickets get lost and they get messed up. And I've gone to restaurants where I'm like, hey, I placed an order, they're fumbling through paperwork. I'm like, we don't see it here. It makes no sense in this day and age. And you don't have to be tech savvy. A lot of these, companies, they'll come in, they'll help you. There's phone support, there's actual like support in person. So that's been my biggest thing that I can say from 10 years ago that structurally changed my business is I've been able to find ways to minimize myself because of a lot of it's tech, ways to automate it.
That's awesome. And how difficult was it to streamline the business? Because a lot of business owners think, like, they see this mountain ahead of them. They see optimization as something that is just so insurmountable because they're just so spread thin with the current operation, and they don't have any time to dedicate to optimization because they're just they're just in the weeds. But if you take the time to really understand where the pain points are, I bet you it wasn't that difficult.
It's so funny. So I worked at a recovery center for 5 years. And one of the tenets in the recovery center is you don't have to stop being an alcoholic forever just for one day. Is one of the tenets is just stop drinking for one day. And it really hit me because for those that are like, I don't even know where to begin, you start with the one step. In other words, you don't have to fix everything in your business. Like right now, if you just go to your store and say, if I could just fix this one thing, what would it be? You can have the biggest goal, but you start with the smallest step so it doesn't become scary. When people ask me, like, you have 3 restaurants and how are you streamlining everything? I streamlined one thing. So it was one app. It was basically catering for one of my restaurants, one location. How would I fix catering in one location where I can systematize this? I looked and I found a company. I said, okay, let's work with this company. Ask questions. You'd be so surprised how helpful people are when they want to sell you something for their app. They're in the business of wanting to sell you something that's valuable, and so ask questions. Tell them that you're not tech savvy. Tell them that you're just learning
Yep.
about this stuff, and you'd be so surprised they are willing to help you. And just one step at a time, one problem at a time. And that's been my motto, and it's been really, really valuable.
Especially with the tech portion, or just tech in general, and business owners. Just that word sometimes sends shivers up people's spines, just thinking about the huge mountain of all these systems. And a lot of people just don't even know what they don't know. But like you said, in this day and age, these transitions to more streamlined processes and systems are a lot easier than people think. And you don't have to be a computer hacker to implement it, first of all, or understand it at a broad level. So that's a great point about just one thing first. Once you get that one little tweak under your belt, or a technology system that saves you time and frees you up to go do other more revenue generating things, that's really the best way to look at it. One thing at a time, and then from there you can kind of get over that fear of, okay, it's not that bad.
Right.
Yeah, that's a great perspective.
Yeah, and it also creates transparency. My bookkeeper can go into any of my systems and see what the numbers are. If something doesn't add up, what's in my bank to what's on my point of sale system, she can reconcile it immediately. It becomes easier for everybody. Before, I was doing things manually with paper, and she would ask, what was this deposit? I'm like, I don't know. I don't remember what I did with it. Those questions go away. Yes, there is some work at the beginning to get the systems figured out, but I'm telling you, the other side is so much more freedom, so much more control, so much more ease that you would have wished you'd have done it years ago. And so you're absolutely right, Rick. You got to take the step. And for those that are sitting here on the fence, I would get off this call today and start making phone calls. Just think about one thing in your business and be like, well, whether you're a locksmith, whether you're a plumber, whether you're whoever, you don't have to do it. You can find other people that will outsource and put these systems in place for you. That's the whole thing.
Yep. Do you use any sort of AI platform in your business operations?
That's none of your business. No, so I don't use anything right now. However, all the platforms I use integrate AI with it now. So,
Yeah.
for example, I use Square for my point of sale. Now on the back end, they have this whole AI infrastructure. I can ask, hey, how can I minimize payroll in my Carlsbad store? Payroll's high, and then it'll actually tell you, looks like you're using this many people in the shift and there's overtime, and it'll actually help and fix it. It's pretty cool.
That's very cool.
That's one of the things, but I don't directly do it. I have done it with certain questions that I've had using Chat, Claude, or most of them are being integrated. That's the cool thing, is we're in this time and space where if you do want to streamline, all that stuff is built in now. It's pretty cool.
That's awesome. Very cool. I think the bottom line is that a lot of business owners think that buyers pay for the hustle. They pay for what they've built, but in actuality, buyers are actually paying for the infrastructure. They're paying for the system.
Yeah, and you said something about assets and and AI. I have systems both with my catering and my customers at my restaurant. I have an email list. I have access to them. So when I ever sell my business, I have over 3,000 customers, active customers, that if I sell my business tomorrow, you can email them and say, come in, grand opening, new menu item. Like, that's another asset. Your asset is not just your business, but your customers. So I have that as an asset base, and it's extremely valuable because I now know through AI and through my platforms who my longtime customers are, what the customer spend is, how many times they come in a month, in a week, in a day. Do you think that's valuable? Absolutely. Those are the customers I'm not reaching out to and saying, hey, I want to thank you for this. And, I have customers that come in once every 6 months, and I have customers that come in, some of them are coming in daily. Like, they should be treated differently. They should be valued. Everyone should be valued, but there are some that are your VIP customers. Do you have that segmentation in your business? If you don't, you may want to consider that. Those are the kind of things that automation helps perform. And again, I'm guessing that's going to be valuable when I sell my business. If you say, a restaurant that has no customer database versus someone that does, I think that may be valuable when considering an exit strategy.
Amir, this has been an incredible conversation. It highlights something that I think everybody needs to hear, including business owners. Setting aside business owners, everybody should understand throughout life there are exits. There are exits in business, and preparing is critical. So I think that you did an incredible job explaining that, not only from a business owner's perspective, but from, just a human being perspective. So I really appreciate that. An exit isn't about selling tomorrow. It's about building a stronger and more valuable business today. If you enjoyed this episode, subscribe to BizSellingExpert for more insights on maximizing business value, reducing risk, and preparing for a successful future exit. Thanks a lot for joining us.
Thank you for having me.